Welcome to another episode of Tired as a Mother with Shantae Renee. And we have made it to our last episode of the series Mother's Tea, y'all. I can't believe that we had 12 moms that came on here and shared, well, 12 moms, including our mom tonight, that I'm super excited about. But yes, I just want to tell you all thank you so much for even viewing and watching this Mother's Tea series. This was something that God had placed on my spirit and just being obedient. So I was just surprised, but please keep me encouraged because when I receive those text messages or those DMs that saying how much that this podcast has helped them as a mom, like I need that. I need that more than you all know. So just thank you to those who have reached out. And please just continue just to help your girl out while I go through this journey. But yes, but today I have Miss E. So let me tell y'all a little secret about Miss E. So yes, this Mother's Tea was on me last year for Mother's Day. And I'm gonna be honest, y'all, I was not obedient with doing what God had told me to do with doing this podcast. And so this year, so Miss E has my babies at her school, y'all. Like phenomenal secretary. Every time I come in, I know I don't have no words because she's right there front and center, and she's not gonna let anything happen to not only my babies but any of the babies there. And so happened, I had her kids when I was a school counselor at Northeastern High School. And, we share stories, but I feel like this year it's been different with us talking about our kids and things like that. And she has expressed to me. So when she was like, you know what, I would love to share my story, I'm like, yo, all right, God, I'm listening. Like, I cannot let this go by another year and not do the podcast and definitely not let Miss E. So I want to tell you, thank you. You don't even know how much you have pushed me, like talking to me in the mornings after I drop the kids off. Um, yeah, thank you for just being obedient and trusting me because I know it takes a lot to it does. It takes a lot to share your story, but it's just so ironic that you are my last mom for Mother's Tea. And I just want to tell you to your face, thank you so much for trusting me, not only with your babies, but even with just your motherhood story. So I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself. Tell us how many kids that you have and describe motherhood with one word.
Okay, so I have four beautiful children, ages of 41, 25, 22, and 19.
Every time you say 41, I be looking like I could be your child and I don't see it.
So I was a teenage wife and a mom, and then I was a late in life mom, and then I was an in between mom. Yeah. Yeah, I have four beautiful, beautiful children.
You do.
And I haven't always been able to get pregnant like most people. The last three were fertility babies.
Really? I didn't know that.
So I don't know. I motherhood to me in one word. Joy.
Joy.
Joy. Peace
And
and can I do peace and
yeah,
joy?
you could do whatever. Look,
No.
you're my last mom on here. You say what you want. What you describe what motherhood is for you. Not even only just one word. Just joy,
Um
peace, and what else?
Being a mom has brought me a peace and a joy I've never known.
Mm, that's true.
Yeah. I they I can't express what they are to me. I don't think that they ever will understand what they are to me, but I've
Yeah.
never had any kind of true love in my life. And
Wow.
my four children are my loves.
I know that your kids' love is always different. It's just something you just never had before, and it's crazy how even though you have four kids, I bet each one is like a different type of love. Like,
When I die, they'll fight. Mom said I was the favorite. Mom said I was the favorite. Mom said, yeah, you're all the favorite.
yeah, like really, like you are my favorite
Mm-hmm.
in your own special way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I know that's going to be a fight at the funeral.
She keeps saying, "Look,
Yep.
no, you're not going nowhere no time soon, so we don't have to think about who's going to discuss what at this homegoing." But yeah, you are definitely. But ever since I've been knowing you, like you always glow when you talk about your babies.
Oh,
You always have. It doesn't matter which child you're talking about. Um, it doesn't.
they all bring me a joy, Um, Obviously, I was a teenage mom, so, I didn't get to do the things that my children did. So I kind of live my life
Yeah.
through what they have accomplished. So, I went to my first prom. with baby. I was his
Oh,
prom date because he had a short-term memory, and somebody had to go with him. So that was my
yeah,
first prom. I've never been to one. Um, I don't know. I've chaperoned a lot of things for my
yeah,
oldest.
yeah.
But I don't know. All the things that I wanted to be and do, I lived
Hmm.
through my children.
Oh.
So.
And look, you still smiling right now as you talk about them kids. I'm telling you, you always have a glow. Now, I don't want to jump too ahead, but you already had kind of touched on it when you say baby. Well, what's baby's real name?
Okay. So baby is known as Junior Peyton Kimball.
They
But his coaches do call him baby.
do. Even when I say like, "Hey, baby," and I'm like, I want to make sure he had his real name
if
on
if
here.
you we have a small circle,
Hmm.
um, a good small circle,
Yeah,
and those who love us, will call him baby.
yeah.
And it is what it is. He's been baby since he was baby. Like my daughter couldn't say his name, so she named him baby, and baby it stood. So, and he doesn't mind. I mean, he's
Yeah,
in college, and his friends like, "Oh, your mom's calling you baby."
baby.
If I called him Junior, I think he'd think I'm mad at him.
Oh, because you call him by his real name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they kind of know when we feel some kind of way by the name that we say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He would be like, "What the cookies?
Yeah.
Why is she calling me that?"
So you had said that baby experienced some short term memory.
Okay, so on April 14 of 2024, baby had a heart attack at home.
And how old was baby?
18. Yeah.
18 years old. Yeah.
He he loves he does disc and shot put, and he was focused and determined to win 6 state rings, state champion rings. And he worked out religiously,
Mm-hmm.
practiced religiously. Um, and I noticed, like, after, like when that school virus went around, where they're just in the bathroom
Right.
and they're just not, he had about, like, for 2 days he was very sick like that, lost 12 pounds.
Mm,
And it was really scary because that's a lot of weight to lose in 2 days.
yeah.
And so for the next, like, couple of weeks, we just honestly thought that his fatigue was because he was trying to get back that muscle weight and
Right.
put back those electrolytes and stuff. And my son never misses a private practice. Like,
Yeah.
he goes to Virginia and he sees his coach, and that's their time. They're bonding, they talk. My
Mm,
son doesn't have a male figure like a dad, but he has, like, Coach
mm,
Johnson, Coach Nixon,
mm-hmm.
Coach Moore. All of these
Yeah.
coach brothers have all been mentors to him.
Right.
Kendall, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the relationship between Baby and Kendall is amazing. And there's DJ Ward. I mean,
Yeah.
there's Coach Leroy who mentors him spiritually.
Oh, no,
You
that's
know,
sweet.
I that's my my core.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We just couldn't figure it out. Like, what's going on? He would throw really good at practice, and then come time to compete, he still win, but not with the
Mm-hmm.
numbers that he was throwing. And
Right.
so we just kept saying, okay, now he's oversleeping. Okay, he's growing. He's growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's making up for being sick. He's growing. So baby had a routine every day at like 8:45. He'd come into my room and take
Mm-hmm.
my cold waters, even though he has a refrigerator in his room. He would just
Yeah.
take mine, right? But it was his way of, like,
Come to
um,
see
yeah, before he does his yoga, right? He does yoga faithfully, religiously every night. And
you.
that night it was only like 8:30, but my grandson and him had been playing in the room, and my son, I guess, had made my grandson like a late dinner,
Mm-hmm.
and he came in the room and he saw my grandson over my son. Now I want you to know, my grandson,
Mm-hmm.
he's a computer geek.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't really care what's going on with his uncle. He could give two hoots if the house burns, as long as as long as he's in his game.
Yeah.
But that day, he paid attention to his uncle,
Wow.
right? So my son walks in the room, and my son says he saw him standing over baby, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, I don't know, Dad. There's something wrong with him. And so, my son must have messed with him. And he comes running to the room and he's like, Mommy, something's wrong with baby. And I go to the room and I start shaking him. And all I hear is this.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm just like, what the hell? And I'm punching him, punching him. I'm punching him so hard, like it hurts. So I told my son, call 911. And I immediately left the room and I started pacing and praying. I'm not going to lie to you. I felt like the cops were there, the sheriffs were there in like 2.5 seconds. I opened the front door. Sheriff TJ Mercer comes in, Sheriff Shelton, Emily's dad.
Yeah.
They come in, and right away they're asking, well, my son is on the phone and he starts CPR. They're walking
Wow.
him. My son knows how to do CPR.
Hmm.
He gets him on the floor. He's doing CPR. Then they come in and they're asking questions like, does he do drugs? I mean, he's 18 years old.
Right.
He's buff. He could be taking steroids. Who knows?
Right.
100 things they're thinking. They start doing CPR. And then, I'm like a lunatic. I'm walking back and forth, and I'm screaming, yelling, and, I'm saying all these things to God. And I'm just like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
So then TJ, the fire department shows up, and they go in, and TJ Mercer comes out, and I start pounding on him. I could have been arrested, but it wasn't. And I'm pounding on him, and he's holding me like this, and he's saying, it's okay, it's okay. No, no, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Pray. So I'm praying and he's calming me down. And now a fireman comes out because the ambulance comes, and
Hmm.
then it's Dante, and I, for the life of me, can never remember his name. But his child goes to Northeastern too, and he literally takes me and shakes me, and we start to pray.
Wow.
So while we're praying, I could hear them. I could hear my son flatline, and I'm not accepting this. I am not accepting that. I was like, Lord, please, no, 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 I'll do whatever you want. You negotiate. I'm
Yeah.
negotiating with God, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, Lord, please, 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 no, 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 no. The devil's a liar. The devil's a liar. And all you
Wow.
hear is, now I get on the phone with my brother, who's a pastor. And I really wanted to tell him, like, I don't have a good relationship.
Hmm.
So calling, I'm sure he said, oh, Lord, let me pick up this phone.
Okay, you were
She
calling.
doesn't know it all.
Right.
So he picks up the phone, and I really wanted to tell him, get everybody on the phone and pray. Pray right
Wow.
now. But he didn't. He started praying and praying and praying and praying. My good friend, who's also my doctor, comes, and I'm asking her, go in there and save him.
Wow.
Go in there and save him because they're not saving him. She's like, no, 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 no. They're doing everything they can. She's trying to work me out. And I'm just like, please. I'm just a lunatic. Just a lunatic person begging, please, please save my child. And all of a sudden, my brother starts praying. Beep,
Wow.
beep, beep. Originally, we had like beep, but
Hmm.
Jessica, hold that. What I said, he lives right on the corner from
Yeah.
me. She came. Can I just see him? And I was like,
Mm.
okay. And so did TJ and Belton. They all came just to see him to lay him. And they took him on for 20 seconds.
Wow.
Now, when we get to this one, I please, Lord, please, God, please, I want him in the So I'm sitting there, and there's two phone calls I make to Amy Johnson and Kendall.
Hmm.
Kendall sends Pinky and his parents because he's
Mm.
not close.
Hmm.
So everybody's there, and everybody's, I'm rocking myself, praying, and Johnson's like keeping everybody like, because we're waiting.
Yeah.
We don't really know what's going on, and I'm just like, I need him gone out of this hospital while I'm waiting for my daughter to come from Raleigh.
Wow.
Um, Long story short, they bring me in to see him, and I can't. I can't go in there. I can't see him. He is, you know, on a machine, and it's helping him breathe, and I, I couldn't. And they're not promising me anything. They were like, he was, ma'am, he was gone for more than 8 minutes.
Wow.
I said, okay. So I walked back and forth. We called Red Cross, to bring my son in. He was
Hmm.
in Norway. Kendall's sitting there and he's keeping calm, but his demeanor is just like, Okay, so it's him, Johnson, and we're just walking back and forth and pacing. And then I said, let me go home and change. But I really wanted to go
Mm.
home and just cry some more, and
Yeah,
I'm in the
that's a
bathroom crying, and
lot.
I'm just like, please, 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 I'll do anything. I just remember all the negotiations I did with God.
Yeah.
And by the time I get back, my daughter's there, and they come out again and they tell me, ma'am, we don't want to, we can't even do anything for him at this hospital.
Wow.
So they told me that they were flying him out, and we were going to Virginia, that there were no hospitals and no beds at the heart hospital, that my son definitely had a heart attack, and they don't, they just didn't want to give me any illusions that he was going to be okay.
Wow.
So we get to the next hospital, and so they leave him on a machine and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Like, he was on the machine for, almost a whole day. And then they come in and they say, we're gonna have to take him off the machine because
Wow.
we cannot do an MRI until 72 hours after the heart attack. Um, we believe that he could hear you, you know, um, talk to him. Let's see if,
Mm-hmm.
he responds. But um, they had initially thought he was having seizures, um, but he wasn't. He was alert at the hospital because my son said that the nurse said she was there to draw blood, and he kept like jerking.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was like, "Ma'am, he doesn't like needles. He's petrified of needles. Baby, a
Mm-hmm.
beast."
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, so then she was like, "No, we have him so sedated because he keeps having seizures." They didn't. He flung the nurse across the room with his arm. He
Mm-hmm.
jerked it, and she flew. And she was like, "Oh my God, something's wrong."
Mm-hmm.
So my son had said, "I told you." And he's trying to tell him, "I think he's not having seizures. I think he's trying to,
Mm-hmm.
wake up." And they were like, "No, no, no." So now we're in the hospital, and he's off the machine now 3 hours and nothing, and nothing's
Oh.
going right. Everything is going down. His heart rate is going down. His breathing's going down. And my daughter and I say, okay, let's, you know, his teammates from Virginia come in, and they allow them to come in. I said, well, that'll give us a break. Let's go walk and pray.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go walk and pray. And while we're walking and praying, each of the teammates are going in one by one. You only allowed like two people in there. So the last girl that came in, the last thrower, her and him have this banter, like back and forth, like brother and sister. They just like, ugh. And she was like, "Oh my God, he squeezed my hand." And then one nurse was so like, "No, he didn't. He's just having seizures." And so, like, I right away get all happy, right?
Right.
I run to the other side and I'm like, "Baby, baby, if you can hear me squeeze my hand." And he took my hand and he
Yeah.
squeezed it. I said, "Man, he squeezed my hand." No, no, he didn't.
Oh.
Now, there was a young nurse, and she just fell in love with him from the moment he was there, like, because he was, everybody else is old, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody's old in that unit. It's ICU, the
Yeah.
heart side of it. And the patients are 80 years old, and here's
Yeah.
this 18-year-old,
Wow.
so she's just, oh no, no. So she comes, and I said, watch. I put my hand, I was like, watch, baby, if you can hear me,
Mm-hmm.
squeeze my hand. And he squeezed my hand. So now they're like, okay, because she gave me 1 more hour. She gave me 1 more hour, but when that happened, it was down to 15. Like, we're gonna put him back on the machines. And I was like, oh my God, that is not a good sign. So when that happened, all the doctors came and they asked us all to leave. Um, and so my daughter and I and his teammates were out there, and we're just praying. And at that time, people from Northeastern is coming. I can't remember all the people, but Nixon was there. Tony
Yeah.
Johnson was there. Miss Cobbs was there. I think Mr. Parker was there. You name it, they was there. His friends were there. Um, and the doctor comes back out and he says, "Can you come in?"
Mm.
And I go back in the room, and he says, "Look, I can't explain this, but your son is awake." And he goes, I honestly, ma'am, I can't explain it. It could only, now one doctor
Mm.
was religious
I was
and
say it's only
one
God.
doctor was not. That doctor was in the back like this. And that one doctor said, "Man, oh, but God, this
That's
is
never
this."
God.
So he said, "Go ahead." Now I walk over to him and I said, "Baby, who am I?" And he's like, "Mom."
Like, why you ask
Like
me that?
stupid. He want to call me a monkey because that's what he calls me. He's like, I was like, and who's this? My sister. Well, what's her name? And he goes, Nani, Nanya. He goes, I was like, whatever. So I was like, okay. So I said, he knows us. And the
Yeah.
doctors was like, okay, okay. Do you know where you're at? And he's like looking all over and he's like, I think I'm in the hospital. And they're like, okay, okay. Um, so they let it go. We walk outside, and the doctors are like, "Ma'am, I don't know. We really don't know what to even say at this point.
Right.
We cannot do an MRI for 72 hours. Right? 20 minutes
Mhm.
go by. Baby says, "What am I doing? Where are we?
Wow.
Why are we here?" I call the doctor. I was like, he doesn't know where we're at." And the doctor's like, "Okay, okay."
Yeah.
Okay. So he goes, "Who's president?" I was like, "Why would you ask him? He doesn't know who the president is." He goes, "What day of the week it is?" He goes, "It better not be practice week." I was like, "See, he's remembering these things." And the doctor's looking at him. And all this kid kept saying to him was like, "Oh, it's Wednesday. I'm missing my
He's supposed
meet.
to be.
I'm
Wow.
missing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm supposed to be in Northeastern practicing. Wednesday's my meet. Thursday, I'm supposed to be in Virginia." He has it all down, but he doesn't really know, like,
What he went
yeah.
through.
So a little while later, same thing. Why am I here? And come on, man, like I gotta go. Let's get dressed. And the doctors are explaining to me I had a heart attack, and he's like, "Mom, please, please, please stop, Mom. We're not here because I have a heart attack. We're here because you don't know how to drive."
It's not because you.
Has nothing to do with him. It's me. Me. I was like, "No, dude, really." So everybody's laughing, we're joking, blah, blah, blah. Now they come in again, 20 minutes later, more doctors, different doctors.
Mm.
And they're like, "Okay, what's this? What's this?" And he can't remember. Then he remembers some things. And I was like, "But he is a ditzy child. Like, you're asking
Mhm.
him things he wouldn't know anyway."
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Okay, who's the president?" "Obama." I was like, "Obama's not the president." So he's like, "Well, he is to me." I was like, "Dude, wrong person." So I was like, "Okay." So then he says, "Trump." We're like, "No." All the doctors and the nurses are like, "No, it's Biden." So he's like, "Oh, whatever." So then they come out and they say, "Listen, we're gonna run him for some tests. Um, his liver shut down, his kidney shut down, and we're doing everything we can." So he's on these machines that you see here, and they're trying to get the liver to work right and the
Mhm.
kidney to work right. And they're like, but they're just in awe of him,
He-
like
That's
literally
that's how
in
God
awe.
works.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, okay, okay. Um, so a couple of days go by. It's almost the point of 72 hours where they can do an
Mhm.
a scan of the MRI, and he's still 20 minutes later forgetting what just happened.
Exactly. Wow.
So the
Mm.
doctors say,
Mm-mm.
"Listen, his long term memory is intact, but his
Mhm.
short term memory is not." And all he keeps saying is like, he got to go.
Yeah, he know
He
he
got to
got to
go. He's
meet.
got to go. Right. And then all of a sudden he want to play basketball. Boy, you don't play basketball. You don't play basketball, baby. You done football. You gave up on basketball. You've done wrestling, but you don't do that. "I gotta go. They're playing outside. Don't you hear them?" Like, dude, there's nobody out there. It's a
Oh.
courtyard. There's nobody out there. All we're seeing is the other side of the. No, ma, I gotta go. So now he's agitated,
Mm.
which is what
Which
they
is
say
understandable.
happens with people like with dementia, short term memory
Mhm.
loss and stuff. Now he tries to bust out of the hospital. He's trying to rip off everything, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Ooh." And my son is there, Amir, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's a big guy, and he's
Yeah, my
like,
son is pretty big too.
And my daughter's trying to negotiate. Finally, I said, "I'm calling the nurses. Like, you guys want to fight with him, but this,
Yeah.
no, this is not a good thing. The heart rate is going up, and now we're panicking."
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
now the first nurse comes in and she tries, nope, nope, nope. Now they get him to lay down, but he's still, I mean, he's doing it. Next thing I know, there's 12 nurses, 3 security guards,
No
4
security as well.
doctors, tons of things. They're trying to tie him down. The
Oh,
machine is
wow.
going like this. And here's one doctor, the non-believing
Uh-huh.
doctor, looking like this at the machine. And the other doctor's
Oh.
going to me, "It's going to be okay. This is normal. This is normal. And he's trying to
Yeah.
calm me down. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna step outside. I'm gonna pray. My daughter's crying. I said, Beauty, I'd rather have this than no baby. So let
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
whatever this is. Now, Amir, he's not having it. He's like, the nurse said, honey, we got this. So he's tired of seeing 12 nurses try to stick him with a needle. So he jumps over them and he puts him in a bear rug, and baby's fighting with him, telling him, you're working for the ops. You're working for the ops. And I'm like, what are the ops? What are the ops? And my daughter's like, Mom, don't worry. Don't worry. We're the ops. Who's the ops? And everybody's just like, everything is like chaotic. Everybody's like, oh my God, oh my God. And the one nurse that loves him to death is crying. She's like, no, 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 let's not tie him down. Tie him down. And we're like, oh my God. So finally, he takes and he bites his brother right here, and Amir just shh and yells at the nurse, if you don't stick him right now. So she sticks him, and 2 seconds later, he's like, and my daughter's hysterical crying. I was like, girl, look at his heartbeat's all better.
We got a heartbeat.
We got a heartbeat.
That's all that matters right now. We have a heartbeat. He's
She's like, Mom. I was like, girl. So now Amir, he's upset, you
Yeah.
You that all these nurses and do this to my brother when you could have just stunk him. And then of course he's walking around with a thing here, and he talked a lot of junk, and he goes, and you, I'm not talking to you, me. I was like, oh, okay. I walked out. I was like, but my daughter took it so hard, and it was so hard on her. That's her baby. He used to sleep. He used to sleep on her bed until she kicked him off, and then he slept on the floor next to her. But that's her baby. She named him baby and stuff. And Amir, he's just like, how could this happen to my brother? He was a little upset.
So many questions,
He was like, Mom, like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. So now they're rushing the MRI. They're like, it's 72 hours. We're taking him in.
Right.
So they come back, and 5 doctors come in now. So I'm thinking, God, help me, please, Lord. Like, there's 5 of them now. What are they going to tell me?
Right.
And I'm sitting there, and we waited almost all day for them to come back with the results of this MRI. I was like, why didn't they put a stat on it? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on? We're sitting there hopeless, and he's sitting there like he,
Like nothing happened.
every 20 minutes we're refeeding him because he can't remember
he
that
he
ate.
After the 20
you
minutes,
already ate, buddy. You already ate. You still hungry? I'm hungry. I didn't eat today. Yes, you did.
Oh.
Yes, you did. my wallet is running dry. Yes, you did. So he's like, well, I'm really hungry. I was like, no, dude, you cannot possibly be hungry.
Wow.
So I was just like, okay. Now they come back in, and they just tell us this. Look, we can't explain it. There's no damage. There's nothing. It's like a beautiful brain. Like, you don't even know. There's not a hiccup on it. Nothing. Not a blemish. And we're like, what? And they're like, nothing. Nothing shows. So they just say this, that the short-term memory, because of the amount of time the oxygen, he didn't have oxygen. His memory can come back. His short-term memory can get better. In time. It's not going to happen overnight. But it will come back eventually, because there's nothing in the MRI showing that there's anything wrong. So that will heal itself, like his liver and his kidney.
Okay.
So after like 2 days of him not trying to bust out of the hospital, and Kendall and Pinky coming every night to play games with him on the phone. Like, Kendall was literally in his phone playing games with him. So he wouldn't bust out, and me taking cat naps, because obviously, my daughter had to go home. And then they would show up faithfully. Pinky would bring her kids. They play games with him. I mean, some days they leave there like, I don't know, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning after, working all day. And I mean, they were faithful to me. So, and I was grateful, you know what I'm saying? Because that gave me a chance to, regroup, or just take a cat nap and not worry that he's going to try to, bust out again.
Yeah.
We didn't notice a change that whole week in his memory. It was still like, maybe it got up to an hour, but I'd rather have him not have memory than not have baby at all. You know what I'm saying? So I was just so grateful. I really am grateful. They finally say, okay, we're gonna move him down to a room, and we have to start like they notice like his speech was a little off. Um, and they felt like they needed to get him moving so that the liver and the kidney can restart to function correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started OT. So initially they sent one guy, and the guy said, "I kind of need backup. Can you send another person?" So they, because he was trying to finagle his way out
He kept trying to
of
break out of the
that
hospital.
place, and he's
Like, you
like,
need to be
"Okay,
here.
can I go to the gym? I know you have a gym here. I know you have this. I know you have that." And they were like, "Yeah, but you can't go because they didn't have a nurse to go with him."
Mm-hmm.
And they would try to explain. And he goes, "Okay, how about if I do the stairs?" So these poor, they're out of shape. These guys. He's going up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs. I said like this. No, I'll wait here. And then I said, no, let me videotape this because Kendall told me that I should, have a memory of this so that to
Yeah.
show him like, where he's been through, Mars God has brought him through.
Yes.
So I videotaped some of it. I was like, I'm tired. I'm not going up and down the stairs no more. I'm gonna videotape him from right here. This is it. Then he's doing push-ups and they're bringing balls to the room. They're
All
bringing
this
all
after a
these
heart
things.
attack.
Yeah, just because a whole gym came to his room. I was like, you're a brat. So 2 days later, every day he told me, Kenzel didn't come visit me. I was like, boy, Kenzel was here, and so was Pinky, and everybody. They played Uno. You cheated. Everybody cheated, and this poor kid didn't get to win because all of you cheated against her poor son. I was like, no, they was here. So finally, on Sunday, that Sunday, you know, the doctors had been trying to convince baby to sign papers.
Mm.
They came to us and they said, we're almost 99% sure that he has with Parkinson's disease. We're going to do a scan, and, you know, that will tell us if he has the extra valve. So I was like, okay. They take him for the scan, they come back, and it's that. So that at least now we know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So the blood flew into the wrong place, right? So they're like, okay, what we need to do is do an ablation.
Mm-hmm.
But because of his age and because of the amount of time he was down, and you can never be really 100% sure, we need to put a heart pacer in him. And at that time, they're explaining to him that the heart pacer will go in here and through his heart. And all he can say, well, how long is that going to take? Because I got to go.
He
And
got
the
things to
doctor's
do, and
like,
ain't nobody's understanding him.
no, the doctor, non-Christian doctor was like, no, you're not going to throw again this year. And the more he said that, the more he agitated him. And the more I kept saying, please don't send that doctor in here because I'm going to hit him. I can't control him, but I'm going to hit him.
Yeah.
And I kept telling baby, stop listening to him. Stop listening to him. He doesn't have God's report. We have
That's
God's
true.
report. I don't know where that man's coming from.
Yeah.
So he was adamant he was not going to have that surgery because that surgery would be a minimum of 6 months of healing. So the next doctor comes in and he says to, he has a whole conversation with baby, and baby tells him, listen, I need to get out of here. I need to
He was
throw
ready
at
to go.
regionals because if I don't throw at regionals, I don't qualify for states, and I need 6 rings. And the man's like, what do you do? And so he told them. So now they start looking at video, and he's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
He says, I got you. He says, I'll be right back. He comes back 2 hours later with 3 more doctors. And they're like, Junior, we have another heart pacer. If you can pass these tests, we're going to give it to you. So it's a heart pacer it's implanted on the side. And then the wire comes underneath his chest and over his heart. So there's an incision here down, right, where they tuck it in. And then, they go, and then he has an incision here. And they, like, I don't know, they're putting it to the heart. And they tell him that's less time. So he's like, okay. He goes, I'll have the ablation now and I'll come back after nationals for
negotiating.
yeah. And they were like, no, Junior. No, you should have them now. And he's like, no, I'm not signing. So I don't know what happens. Kendall sends his dad.
Talking about
Yes, he wants to. Do you know his dad? Okay,
yeah,
so he comes.
Let's use the Alan Spade partner. Or
Yeah. So he comes and he shares his testimony on, how he got sick and how he had to, come to terms with that he wasn't going to return to work and whatever. And he told him how much his Kendall loved him and wanted the best for him, and that
Wow.
everybody around him wanted the best for him and stuff. And so, he hugged him, he kissed him, they said a short prayer, and he left. And about 20 minutes later, the doctor comes in. He looks at me and goes, I'm just going to do this for Kendall's dad because whatever. But he signed the paper not knowing that he signed the paper for both procedures. We're not telling him anything because 20
No.
minutes later,
He
he's
got
going to
read back.
forget.
He got to repeat everything
Right.
already.
So we're not saying anything on Sunday. On Sunday, all of my kids are together, plus my bonus kids, which is Wade Staten and Elijah Cooper.
Yeah.
And we're there. My grandson's there, and Pastor Staten comes with his wife and
Mhm.
daughter, and we're all in there. We're laughing, we're joking, we're eating, and we're just praying. We pray. He lays hands on him, and his wife prays for him. It's just a whole prayer session,
Right.
and we eat. They leave. I get up in the morning, and he tells me, "Is there any food from yesterday? Because I really like that food." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "The food, the
Just in
food we
case you
ate."
didn't hear him.
I was like, "You remember yesterday?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Who was here yesterday?" And he named them all. So I bring the thing. They come
Yeah.
back in. Now again, we have a bunch of doctors, and they're like, "Ma'am, I don't even know what to tell you."
Yeah.
So they talk to baby, and they explain to him the procedures, what's going to happen. He's still under the illusion that he's
Gonna
going to be
have that
having
on.
one of the surgery. So they're like, I forget how they tell him. So they're tricking him, right?
Mhm.
So I told them I'm going to hell for this, right?
No, you're not. You save your
It's like-
baby.
I said, don't mention the second one. Don't, whatever you do, don't mention the second one. But the idiot doctor
Oh,
comes
no.
in, and then for some reason, he must have touched his spirit in the wrong way, because whenever that particular doctor walked in,
Mhm.
his spirit would change, and he'd be like
Wow.
so angry, and you know what I'm saying? So I was just like, I felt like that was a bad spirit. And so I
Mhm.
asked him, please, can we not have that doctor come back? Can we
Right.
have another one? And so look how good God is. That was his last day, and he was off for 4 more days.
So it worked out perfectly.
I was like, thank you, Jesus. Thank you. So then that day, I walked outside, and the doctor said, listen, as much as we don't want to put him back under anesthesia, we cannot do both surgeries in the same day because first of all, there's no beds yet at the
They
hospital.
still no beds.
No beds. So they're like, and I have a slot on Wednesday that I can do this.
Mhm.
I said, but you promised him on Monday, and now he's anxious, and I don't know how I'm going to
Yeah.
calm his spirit so that he can just leave me alone, because he's driving
Right.
me to drink. He needs to go throw. The doctor's like, okay, we'll work on it. So come Tuesday, they said, okay, on Wednesday, we got him on the schedule. He's going to be the first one. And then he
Mhm.
said, and then I have a slot on Thursday morning, the
Oh, good.
same time. I was
Right.
like, okay. So we would just won't tell him, right? We're just gonna.
Mm-mm. Nope.
So we're not telling him. We're not telling him. But okay. Tuesday at like 11:40 night, they tell us we got a bed. Let's go.
Wow.
So they take us by, well, they take him by ambulance, and I follow. I don't know how to drive, right? So I told the ambulance people, like, one, I can't drive. Two, it's dark and I can't see. So can you have the lights on? This way I can't lose you. And so they did. They thought it was, like comical. I was like, no, really, you don't
Like seriously,
understand.
like I need it.
I really can't see, and I'm a horrible driver. So I followed them to the hospital, and then they left me. They went in someplace, and here I am
Don't know
driving
where to go.
everywhere, like, oh my God, where do I park?
Yeah.
And how do I get into the hospital? And I'm panicking, and I start crying, and like a crazy woman, like, they took my baby, and I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know how to get in the hospital. I don't know how God led me, right? I calmed myself down, I prayed, and all of a sudden, I'm in the hospital. Somehow somebody let me in the back door,
Wow.
and I'm in the hospital. I go upstairs, I find them, and the doctor says, okay, Miss Kimball, he's going to go first thing in the morning, and this is what we're going to do. He's explaining
Mhm.
the procedure. This normally that ablation is a 1 day procedure, in and out. You can go home. It's a 2 week recovery.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just like burning, zapping it. We all good. So baby's like, oh, when do I get that bionic thing? Like, it's like he calls it the bionic thing, right? And they're like, oh, you're gonna get it. Yeah, you're gonna get it. But meanwhile, we know it's not happening. It is going to happen Thursday morning, and
Thursday.
that's just the way it is.
Right.
So, everybody leaves, and I said, baby, are you okay? And he said, let's pray. So,
Yeah.
we prayed, and, we just asked God, for another miracle, let the healing be quick. Like,
Mhm.
please touch a surgeon and the anesthesiologist's hands, because, you hear a lot of things about anesthesia
Yeah, you
and
do.
stuff. So I was just like, and I was like, are you okay, baby? And he's like, yeah. I said, do you remember what happened? He's like, no. Do you know that you bit your brother? No. Do you know you did this? No.
You remember nothing.
Okay. So now comes that morning, and the doctor comes in and he says, okay, guess what? Somebody backed out of surgery. You're having both things done today. And baby's like, I wasn't coming back Thursday.
Not know he was
The
supposed
doctor
to.
and I are looking at each other. I was like, yes, he was. So
Oh.
that morning, we prayed again. He walked in, we went in, and he has a thing, and the doctor comes down and he says, boy, that's a strong boy you have there. I read his charts. He had how many people give him CPR, and he doesn't
Mm-mm.
have one broken rib?
Wow.
He's like, that is crazy. He's like, what do you feed him?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
a lot. So now he comes and he says, ma'am, did he come back there? Oh, he's awake. I was like, what? Yes, he's awake. So baby woke up quicker than he was supposed to. And they bring him back to the room and stuff. And he's like, I'm hungry. All he thinks about
He
is
think it's
food.
eating.
So doctors come in. Okay, Junior, how you feeling? From 1 to 10, what's the pain level? I was like, dude,
Oh.
talk. And the doctor said, it's okay. He's still under anesthesia. We'll come back. An hour later, they come back in. How you feeling, Junior? From a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain level? I was like, being the clown. So you don't need no Tylenol. You don't want nothing. And he's like, I'm fine. So
Mm.
that evening, the doctor came in, Junior. He says, I'm fine. He goes, have you gone to the bathroom? He says, I've gone to the bathroom. I did number 2. I'm hungry. Can I leave? I got to go.
Yeah.
So the doc, he's remembering, but he's forgetting.
Mm.
He's remembering, but he's forgetting. You know what I'm saying? So the doctor said, listen, this is better than every 20 minutes. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's remembering more and more. But he told him that his liver had not recouped. His kidney was almost 100% back to where it needed to be, but that his liver was not. And so he
Mm.
told baby, I need to administer more drugs. And I'm going to tell you what. If after we do this next bag of here and the liver counts go up,
Mhm.
I will let you go home, but you have to
Mhm.
immediately go to the doctor. So,
Right.
so we could leave there, and then we could go home, and he be just in time to compete.
Mm.
And the doctor's like, no. And baby's like, yes.
He
And the
is
doctor's like,
competing and he's
no. And the
leaving.
baby said, yes. He had the doctor so flustered with the banter of back and forth
Mhm.
that when they wrote the release,
Mhm.
the only thing they said was that he needed accommodations in school for the memory loss. There was nothing about competing, not competing,
Just
nothing.
that part.
Because they were just tired of fighting with him. They were
Because he
just
had his
done.
mind
They
made
was like,
up.
please. And they just looked at me like, ma'am. I was like, please. We came home, and Kendall and I took him to the track. He walked around the track. And while I went to talk to Pam, he had taken the disc out of my trunk and threw it. Kendall said, at this
Oh.
point, you just might as well
You
let
just
him.
let him
I
do it.
was like, so we did. We took him to the circle because we were tired also of hearing him whine and whine and whine. And how do you explain to a boy that God did not do anything but spare your life? That this is not the
Mm.
end of the road. He didn't spare your life. you
Yeah.
know, for nothing. That your plan is not his plan, and you just need to just wait to know what his plan is.
Right.
So, you know, Kendall and I talked, and Kendall was like, "Well, maybe if you get like an ace bandage, like, so
Something
the."
to wrap them.
I ordered, you know, I screenshot him like what I think, and he said, "Yep," he thought so. I
Mm-hmm.
ordered it, and it's like a big ace bandage, and
You
like I
just shot
tied it,
them in,
and we told him you can throw,
but you
but you
have to wear
have to
that.
keep your hand in your pocket.
Okay.
So now for 3 days he's throwing because now he has to reteach himself to spin
Mm.
with one hand, right? And Coach Johnson put his foot down. We're not doing shot put. You already
Wow.
qualified. We're done. So it was conference that week, and he threw, and Coach Johnson put his foot down. As soon as you throw a number, if the number is good enough, you're
That's
done.
it.
You're not getting your three throws. We're not playing this game. And Coach Johnson don't play around.
No, he doesn't.
Coach
He's very
Johnson does
stern.
not play around.
Right.
So, you know, he did it. He did it in his second throw. He didn't even
Mm.
have to. Like, I think his first throw, he didn't even spin. He just threw it so he could get on the books, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a good mark. And then when he threw it again, I think he threw like a 158, a 172. You know, he was like one. He was throwing bombs, and when I say bombs, it was almost 200. And I was just like, okay. So he won. He won conference. Not with the
All this
numbers that he
after a heart
wanted.
attack.
Yep, that next week he won. And then, you know, it was constant, constant. Every day I had to go with him. So originally my son was going to go with him to school, but then Tony Johnson said, no, he's in my class. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
stay there the rest of the day. We wouldn't let him go into the main school
Yeah, because
because
his
if
class
somebody
off to the
bumps
back.
him, you know, the stitches, or, you know,
Wow.
at the end of the year, people want to be crazy. Kids want to
Yeah.
fight and all that. So it was best that they kept him there. And then how good is this that we were blessed that the letter they gave us froze his grades where they were. So
Wow.
graduated sixth in his class, right? And he graduated with a 4 point something.
Wow.
Um, but then the news came in. None of the college wanted him, you know.
Wow.
USC didn't want him. Nobody wanted him. They didn't want to mess with someone that, you know, didn't deliver. Well, of course
Yeah.
he's not delivering. He just had a heart attack, but he can do it, right? So now
Wow.
he is devastated, and he's doubting God, and he's like, why even bother, you know?
Mm.
And I was just like, God did this for a purpose, baby. You don't understand. You know, stop whining. Let's just go.
Mm.
Let's just get this over with. Pray, and God's gonna come through for you because he already came through for you,
Yes, he
baby. And
has.
he's like, well, why would God do this for me? Why would he take this from me? I was like, he didn't take anything. You just want what you want at your way, and that's
Mm-hmm.
not God's way. You're a testimony for someone, baby. Trust and
Yes.
believe you are.
Yeah.
I said, think about all the kids that don't even get to be here because they can't.
Yeah.
I was like, so it was a battle on and on and on and on. We go now to regionals, and he's adamant. He's going to throw that shot put.
Not the shot put.
Yes, girl. The shot put. And there goes Miss Coach Johnson. Yep. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. You're going to throw it,
Mm-hmm.
and when you get that mark, you're done.
Leave it.
So he did. He did both. He won regionals, both shot put and disc.
All this
And
after a heart attack.
yep. Now we're off to states. It was the hardest thing to see him come in second in shot put. He automatically felt sick sitting there, just waiting to go. His nerves had gotten the best of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, Mom, I just don't feel good. And right away I panic. And I go to get
Yeah.
Johnson, and Johnson's like, no, he's okay. He's just, nerves. He came in second. He did not throw his best. So he didn't get that ring. Now we go to shot. Now we go to disc. And of course, that's a blow, right? You won last
Yeah.
year, both shot put and disc. You were state champion on both
Wow.
the year before. And, I sit with him and I pray and I tell him, God knows your heart's desire, baby. But you have to give God thanks for just breathing
For
right
what?
now.
Right.
So whatever you throw, you're going to throw, and you just be thankful that you're throwing. this is not the end. You're still going to college. And in his head, he's like, nobody wants me. Nobody wants me. And God wants you, baby, because God saved your life. So just go and throw. Just do it.
Mhm.
So he did. And he was behind. And then his last throw was, woo! And he won, and he was humbled. He really
Wow.
was. He was like, okay. Does he pray? He prays, but he isn't back to reading his Bible yet. I
Mhm.
understand, your heart's desire. You wanted 6 ring. Boy, you got 5. Let's just be happy.
Yeah.
And the college did take you. And the
Yeah.
D1 took you. You know what I'm saying? How he got there was a joke, but
He
he
said
told
a
the
joke.
wrong person, and his coach never knew he had a heart attack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she took him because she always had her eye out on him, but didn't think that he would, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Baylor College came to look at him. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And they flew us to California. So she was like, UNC Charlotte is not gonna, he's not gonna want to go there. But,
Mhm.
they took him. He loves
Mhm.
it. He made
Good.
Dean's List, even with like a 504 in place. He had to change majors um, because he still has issue retaining,
That's what I was
stuff.
wondering.
But he's always been my ditzy child.
Yeah.
So
He's like,
I'm like, really? You're that smart, but you ditzy, boo. Like, so he's enjoying himself. He got a full ride. He got an educational and a portion of sports. So it
Mhm.
paid well enough for him to stay on campus because
Yeah.
apparently staying on campus is more expensive. We got a full meal package.
Yeah.
He's in Florida right now. He made it to nationals. He's came in third in shot put in the, so like they have their regionals. He came
Mhm.
in third place there. He struggled. He really, really struggled with shot put and this in the spring now. And then that last Sunday, we sat and we prayed. And I said, okay, stay prayed up, baby. Because I always say,
Mhm.
stay prayed up. Like, when
Yeah.
you go in there, you should be talking to God the whole time. The whole time you should be thanking God and just stay prayed up. So I said, how you feeling? He says, good. I threw a 172. Right? He
Mm.
said, what did I throw? I said, you threw a 172. That's your best right now, 172.1. He goes, I only got 2 more feet, mom. So I said, okay, baby. And I'm texting him like, where am I going? Because I could watch him. I could watch when he goes up. I can't see him, but I could see the
Mhm.
number he throws. And I'm always, if I don't get to go, I'm always rocking and praying and talking to God like, oh please, Lord, like please, please, please. And then if he throws a scratch, I'm like, God, baby, what are you doing? Lord, Lord. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the hardest thing
Yeah.
to see your son have a goal. He's going to the Olympics. That's his goal.
Mhm.
And now nothing can stand in his way, right? So I said,
Yeah.
no, honey, you want to go this way, but God has you going this way, then this way, then this way.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, mom, but the cooker way, I really don't like going. I was like, but you be all right. And then he tells me I can't watch him that day. On Sunday, I
Hmm.
can't watch him. I'm like, why? He goes, it's not on there. Don't worry. So I said, what
Mhm.
time did they start throwing? He says 3. Now, if you know anything about college, they never
They
start
start
at
throwing on
3.
time.
How about they started at 3?
Oh.
At 4:59, I text him, and I really don't want to text him, right? Because I'm worried. What if he didn't? He'll be devastated if he doesn't make it to regionals, and I'm not even there to comfort him. That
Yeah.
is
That's
really,
the mom.
you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, that's the stress, right? Next text, I made it to regionals. I was like, he's stupid. He's gonna call me and tell me what you throw. And then he gives me the millimeters or meters that he throws. I don't know meters. Now I'm in my phone, like,
He's trying to
Lord,
translate
what the
it.
cookies? I was like, God help me. I said, boy, you threw a 178. So I finally get the
Wow.
video of him throwing, and I can hear his coach say, all right, Junior. All right, that's it, Junior. That's it. And then you see him like, all right. I said, what you say after you threw that? He said, thank you, Lord. I said, remember that every
Yeah.
time. And remember to share your story. And remember to tell your friends that that that
Mhm.
adrenaline that they feel is not always
Mhm.
adrenaline. That's your heart. I
Mhm.
said, I don't know if you remember, but there was a little boy who died in Rampage.
Yeah, I do.
And they said he had an extra valve. And there was somebody in Camden with the thing, same thing. I said, that's because most people, don't know. It's silent. It's not like you can go to the doctors and you can get a oh, they're hearing it. They don't know you have an extra valve.
Yeah.
So I said, so you have to explain to your wrestlers, to your football players, you know what I'm saying? That adrenaline
Right.
is always not adrenaline. If it's constant, if you feel that in class, sometimes you feel that rush, that, my friends, is a sign. If you feel yourself being
Mhm.
sluggish afterwards, you know what I'm saying? Like your body is just drained. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's not always growing pain. I was like, are you sharing this with your teammates? Are you sharing this with people?
Yeah.
Because those are things we didn't know. You know what I'm
No.
saying? We're thinking he's just tired, he's sleepy, he's growing. You know what I'm saying? And he
Yeah.
was growing and he was sick before, but those were all classic signs that his heart was giving out on him.
Mm.
And that affects athletes. And I was like, well,
Mhm.
you should be telling your friends. You should be telling anyone and everyone that listens to you. But the thing is that he's young and he really doesn't understand. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
He's still fighting a battle with God. Like, why?
Why
And
did this
we
happen?
know not to question God. You
Mm.
know, he does what he does for a reason,
Mhm.
and it is his way, and
Yeah.
he's using him. So he's back to praying, but not reading his Bible. He said he was
Yeah.
going to start again, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, so he's off in Florida. I'm not with him. He competes on Friday. Keep him in prayer.
I definitely will. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I tell him, no matter what happens, you know, you're a freshman and you made it. You made it to
Yeah.
nationals after a heart
After.
attack
Yeah.
without relaxing. And the doctor had told him, like, it takes a year
Mm.
when a man has a heart attack or open heart surgery, you know what I'm saying, to
Mhm.
heal. You have a pacemaker. And I fight with him all the
Yeah.
time. Are you standing next to the machine? Because every night he stands next to the machine. It reads his heart. It sends it to a cardiologist. And on Tuesday, the cardiologist reads it. Once a month, they go over it. And they told him,
Wow.
Junior, if you're faithful and you stay next to that machine every night,
Mhm.
at the end of 5 years, we might remove it.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
So, because then they're sure, 100% sure that it wasn't a
Yeah.
heart attack because of, it's hereditary or whatever, because he wasn't taking air and some, it's literally because of the Wolf Parkinson's white syndrome.
Wow.
So 5 years from now, if he listens and he's not so hard headed, because you know how hard kids are, they want to do them. Um, he will,
Yeah.
they'll remove it.
See.
Mm.
Wow.
And in the meantime, I stay home and I stress and I rock back and forth like any mother, But
Yeah.
and I tell my son all the time, I was like, how did it feel like to go to his room? Because in the house, I could still
Mm.
hear him flatline. I've started going to that side of the house, but still, in my
Mhm.
head, I hear it, right?
Mhm.
And then so I don't think that you ever get over it. So I can
No,
imagine
you
what it's
don't.
like from parents to lose their child, because I know for 20 minutes it was
Yeah.
way too much for me. It still is. Like I'm still like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I keep thinking, I keep reliving that moment. And,
Mhm.
I have to stay prayed up because otherwise I'm going to drive myself to drink. But,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my son knowing CPR.
Yeah.
Um, they say that had he not started it, baby wouldn't be here. I'm grateful for
Wow.
TJ Mercer and Shelton and the fire department and Dante and Jessica. They all worked so hard, and I'm grateful that God put Tony Johnson, DJ Ward, Kendall, and all of them in my
Yeah.
life, because I don't think my children and I just had them
Yeah.
to be there for us. So I think that God puts people in our lives for a good reason.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I'm just like, this is nothing but God. Like,
Right?
honestly, that's how you just even in the podcast. That's nothing but God.
Mhm.
When you can't explain anything, and doctors can't explain it, he can't explain it, and just to hear all this just happened.
And he shouldn't be here by all means, right? No
Yeah.
one, no. They say someone after 3 to 5 minutes you're done, but he
Yeah.
was gone more than that. So I know that's God all the way, and I can't ever, I I don't know, I can't ever,
Yeah.
never believe that there's never a
Mm-mm.
God, that God doesn't um do great miracles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's just been good to me. He's just been
Yeah.
really, really good to me, and
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Mm. Well, y'all, after that, it's nothing else to even say. Just hearing your testimony and just thank you so much for
Thank you for having me.
being willing to even share your story because that's a lot. Like even still going through the healing process because that's a healing process for you too as a mom.
Yeah, but it always brings me back to people that have lost their children.
Yeah,
I always now have like, oh, my heart hurts more for them.
yeah,
How they survive, I don't know. But I know that I'll forever be. I know that I owe God a lot, and I obviously don't do
yeah,
enough to give Him all that glory and praise. You know, I
yeah.
have to do better, be better.
No, you keep reminding your son as well. Like it's a process. Just I can only imagine like what like is he in any type of therapy? Like
So he started therapy,
okay.
but he doesn't want to admit it.
No.
Okay, because baby is he's my cold hearted baby. He's very
Mhm.
cold. Um, so he doesn't like to admit that he needs help. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like we do have a good communication. It could be better. Um, I haven't always been made good choices as a mom. You know, I put in
I
my
mean
kids
that's
in
all as his
situations that
mom.
are not so good for them and stuff. They know my heart. They know that I love them, and
Yeah.
there's no book on how to be a mom.
It's
No,
not it's
but
not a
I told him
manual.
the only book we have is the Bible,
That's
basic
it.
instructions before leaving Earth. That's what the Bible is. But we don't have that for moms or dads.
No.
So, does he goes to therapy? But I honestly, I don't. I believe in therapy, but
Mhm.
I feel like he needs to establish a better relationship with God to know,
Mhm.
you know.
Like God saved me.
hmm I I think one day I pray one day he really can understand what
Mhm.
it's like to be dead, and
Wow. Mm.
it wasn't like honey, like it was for a minute or two, honey. It was 20 minutes. People wouldn't give up. They just honestly, they just didn't give up, and I'm
Wow.
so grateful for them. Like, um, but I think also when you're young, right, you
Yeah,
take life
he's
for
still young.
granted.
He's still young.
Um, and I think he's still at that stage where he's just like, I'm invincible. You know, he's
Yeah.
Superman. That's what he calls himself. I'm Superman. I was like, I'm gonna give you Superman. Um, and then he has a good. His siblings adore him,
Yeah.
and I mean, he was baby, but now he's bratty baby because he's
Not Brady.
he's he's baby. You know, he put us through a lot,
Yeah.
and now my kids have a different relationship with God. I know that my
Mm.
oldest, he struggles with his relationship with God, but he told me, Moms,
Mhm.
I'm not going to lie to you. If baby would have died, it would have been over between me and God. I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, that broke my heart. And I can tell you this, I know
Yeah.
I hurt my son that day because, you know, um, in my screaming and yelling like a lunatic back and forth, he went to comfort me and I would not allow him to. And I know that broke his heart, but I told him later, I felt like if I hugged you, then
Mm.
that was it. I was acknowledging that he was dead.
He was gone.
And I was not, oh no, there was no,
Yeah.
there was no negotiating. I was like a lunatic that day.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't, I was yelling at them. I remember yelling at him. And I remember yelling at my grandson, are you praying? Are you praying? Are you
Yeah.
praying? Pray harder.
Yeah.
I was a lunatic.
Yeah.
So he does do therapy. He needs a lot more therapy. But I
Mhm.
know that Coach Leroy Jones, he prays with him when he calls him. He checks on him.
Mhm.
And so I'm really grateful for
Yeah.
that man. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to be a coach and a Christian coach. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? And though he never coached him in the matter of throwing,
Mhm.
he's a coach and he does a lot for a lot of people in our area.
Mhm.
Um, but he's a good Christian man. He sits down with baby and he talks with
Mhm.
him. He's come to see him. Um, but I love that he can pray with him.
Yeah.
So I think that's good therapeutic too.
Yeah, it
hmm
is. Prayer is always good. Prayer is always good. I definitely want to tell you thank you again.
Oh, thank you for
Yeah,
having
like
me.
that is I don't it's, every time I know every time we talk about it, it still just always have me in awe like this really happened. But to hear him on the other side, it's wow, that really happened. Like this,
And to baby, right? You're just
yeah,
like, really?
you know. But I know your testimony, your story, your prayers is something that he would never forget. None of your kids will ever forget.
No.
And they will definitely be able to carry on. And that's even for other moms that's out there as well, too, just to know that your prayers are not in vain.
No,
They're
absolutely
not.
not.
Your
No.
prayers are not in vain. Like God hears you. And just so grateful that, your prayers answered on here on earth and not on the other side, you
Oh,
know.
thank God.
So
I'll
mm,
just love on him a little more. Thank
yeah.
God a little more.
Yeah, yeah. Like those things you don't take for granted because you've been there. And now your story, and now that you're actually talking about your story more, like other moms are gonna be able to hear this and be like, oh, like I really needed that. I needed that inspiration. I needed that motivation just to know it's gonna be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times some moms don't feel like it's gonna be okay, but you are here to live and tell other moms it's gonna be okay and actually mean it.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
God is good.
Mm,
God has been great to me. So,
yeah. Well, y'all, I'm not gonna even ask any more questions on this podcast. Just want to say thank you.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when you told me, I'm like, it's no way that she could just sit on this story like she has to tell other moms. But oh, because I know you say you started on TikTok and you're gonna start sharing your story more. So how can people continue to follow your story?
Okay, so I had to ask him permission, right? Because
Uh-huh.
you don't want to cross boundaries with your child and
Yeah.
stuff. So I thought I would I have been really good and diligent, like keeping his his throwing, his events and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
then I started more on TikTok. I don't know how to use these things. And they asked me, please, mom, don't go on TikTok. Please stop. And then, I was like, but can we be friends? Can we be Instagram friends? He's like, I'm not doing Facebook. That's for old people. I was like, but I know how to use that one.
Yeah.
So I am going to collaborate with him and
Yeah.
his journey. Like, so it was a year and I put something on there.
Mm-hmm.
6 months from now, I'm waiting till he finishes competing because I never want to I never want to put the pressure on him that he feels like he has to do
Mm-hmm.
better because I'm speaking on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we don't know,
What
you
that?
know,
Yeah.
he's like, well, you put it on there. Now people are expecting me to do great things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
that
so
pressure.
I'm very mindful of that. And I wait
Mm-hmm.
to momentum. like, so now when the season finishes, right, we're going to pray for him on Friday and we're going to pray, listen, you are in the top 48. He's 40 in the state and they only accept
Wow.
48 people to go and compete. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter where you land,
You
son.
made it.
You made it. So
Yeah.
that in itself is a testimony. And that's what I'm really trying to explain to him. And
Mm-hmm.
every time I explain it to him, I explain his disease to him. I explain,
Mm-hmm.
I try. My daughter says, Mommy, try not to harp so much on it. But I was like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people need to be reminded just how good God is.
Yeah.
And then I think once he accepts that, then he'll be able to share his story and it won't matter where he places. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? But it does bother him. Like, what if I don't do good? Like, and every time I say I'm so proud of you, he goes, for what? For what? I didn't do good. I was like, you did great. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, I put it on Facebook, and 6 months from now, I'm going, give a little more of myself,
Yeah.
and then I'll probably come to you and say, hey, can you show me how to TikTok? Because God knows He's not going to show me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And He allows me to put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, um, I think I start there and then like it throws it over to Instagram.
It
Instagram. If I put it
shares it.
on Instagram, it shares it to Facebook. And he was like, Facebook is for old people. Just do it right. I
You
was
know
like,
what?
Lord help me. I said, I am old, baby. I am old. He's like, all right. But TikTok, he says, no, you have to do it right. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, I have friends that know how to use
Help me.
TikTok. Oh yeah. So he's like, okay. So 6 months from now, after and another 6 months
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably gonna come to you and say, okay, this is what I have, help me put it
And we're gonna put
together,
it
and then
together.
what I'm saying, um and I hope in 6 months from now his relationship with God will be
And we're gonna continue
stronger
to pray
and
on that for
better,
him.
and you'll hear from him. Like, he doesn't remember
Yeah.
anything, but he knows his struggle, and he knows he should be on his knees. He
Yeah.
knows he should be praising God. He knows
Yeah.
he should be giving God all the glory.
And he's gonna get there in his timing.
Yeah.
He's gonna take
Right.
his timing. But how can people follow you? Who are you on these TikToks and
So
Facebook,
I'm
Instagram?
oh God. So on Facebook I am, Enid Kimball.
Uh-huh.
And I think that on Instagram, I gotta look, right? Because I gave myself a name and I don't know my name. But that's why he says I shouldn't be on it. He's like, Mommy, you don't even know. You don't know how to use it. I think I'm EVK 2022.
I think that is you.
Right?
Uh-huh. I believe
I'm
that's
pretty
it.
sure it is. I don't have glasses on, so I can't. I don't even know why I looked at my phone. But yes, I'm on there as EVK 2022.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
y'all, yeah, I have heard from Miss E herself, her testimony. And yeah, I'm just grateful for everything that she has shared on today. And once again, thank you
Thank
for
you.
being here with us. And yo, that is our very last episode of Mother's Tea on Tay. Look, I'm about to say Tay Talks. We don't even have Tay Talks no more. Ty is a mother podcast with Shantae Renee, and we will look forward to speaking to you all again next month, y'all. Y'all have a good one.